Hi, my name is Ross. I work in the performing arts and I live in Aberdare with my wife and my new child who was born during lockdown. As you can imagine, this has meant there's been a lot of changes for me recently. In my career, I worked as a theatre director with a company that I had founded, Tortoise in a Nutshell. We toured all over the world with our productions. But before lockdown began, I wasn't working at all. I was actually signed off because I struggle a lot with my mental health. I suffer a lot from anxiety and depression. This has meant that before lockdown began, I would have long stretches where I couldn't get out of the bed and face the day. You might think that lockdown would make these things worse for me, but actually, it had the opposite effect. The world paused, and I didn't feel the pressure to get back to work or back to feeling better. I could pause too. This took a lot of pressure off me, and I began to enjoy my time at home. I spent a lot of time in the garden, growing vegetables, and doing a bit of landscaping too. However, as an artist, I always need to be doing something creative. I began writing mostly just to keep myself busy, and I really enjoyed it. But the biggest art project I did during lockdown wasn't actually very big at all. For over 30 years, Aberdare has hosted an annual festival with sports and arts and other cultural events littered throughout the week. It's a highlight of the calendar for most villagers. But like everything in 2020, it had to be cancelled. I couldn't let the festival week pass without notice, so I created a micro festival. Using miniature railway figures, I put little dioramas around the village that were inspired by some of the festival's usual highlights. I left figurines for others to take to make their own dioramas too. We had a micro festival that week and it was a lot of fun. I felt proud that I could have a positive impact on my community at the time. My child was only a few weeks old, so it was his first project too. The response to the project gave me some confidence. I began to put some of my writing out into the world. In November, I submitted a poem about the birth of my child to the William Souter Poetry Awards. Here it is.
I am on an ark, bobbing on an ocean endless. Friends are fathoms far away, further than this boat shall sway. So alone we sit upon the sea, with only our cat upon my knee. I am on an ark. There is no target destination. The tempest time has no duration. Land is promised, or talk of it, at least talk of it. Always talk of it. But the tempest twists and turns the tide, and like a corkscrew we return, and it all begins again, bobbing on an ocean endless. I am on an ark, wave after wave. I am on an ark, peak after peak. I am on an ark. We roll up the sails and batten down the hatches, but the Leviathan's jaw has endless snatches, and 45,000 souls have become coral. I am on an ark, but the cat on my lap has no interest in procreation. She sees no benefit in the recreation to start the world's repopulation. But my partner has a belly full of hope. We tether ourselves with love and rope and pray the storm will pass. I am on an ark. And I see rainbows everywhere, painted on windows and submerged pavements, streaked through sapphire skies. We are on an ark, and my child new is in my arms. Tomorrow we will reach the land and start the world anew.
I was thrilled that this poem won first prize. And that wasn't the only bit of good news I got that day with my writing. I tweeted out a pitch about the novel I'd been working on in my own time. I was delighted that a publisher wanted to read it. I was even more delighted to discover that they were an awesome indie publisher that had good morals and wanted to make the world a better place with the books they sold. And they wanted to publish my book. That was a lot to take in at the end of the year, but I didn't have time to rest. Before I'd been signed off with my mental health, I'd been working with some fantastic theatre makers on the true story of their great uncle. The piece is called Yellow Canary. I was going to make some puppets for the performance, but I got ill, and so instead I drew some pictures of the story. Then the pandemic hit, and we couldn't get back together. But we wanted to share some of the piece at Manipulate, a visual theatre festival in Scotland that I love. We weren't sure what form the show should take, but we experimented a lot, and I discovered I could sort of puppeteer my drawings. It was like a very rudimental animation, but it kind of worked for our piece. So we shared some of the story at Manipulate, with us all rehearsing over Zoom. The show went down well and has inspired the animation that I am using in this video today. So, over the course of lockdown, I've tried a lot of new art forms. I became a micro sculptor, a spoken word poet, an animator, and an author. So, What's next? Well, a lot of things really. Yellow Canary will be made this year, and I'll draw more animations for that. I've another poetry project that will launch this year too, and my novel, Will and the Wisp, will be published by Hearn Publications in 2022. Ever since I was a child, I dreamed of having my name on a book in a bookshop, but I never ever thought it might happen. But here we are. The thing I'm most excited about though is learning how to be a dad. That is a real art form, and one that requires a lot of practice. When my wife goes back to work, I will take over the childcare, which will be my main preoccupation for the next few years. My mental health has been up and down a lot since lockdown, and it has not been easy at all. I've had good periods and bad periods, like all of us right now, I suspect. But when Fife Cultural Trust commissioned this film, I got a chance to look back on the year, and I've achieved a lot. My mental health really gets in the way sometimes, but I'm proud that even at my lowest points, I can still produce art. Even if it's only something really small, it's something that will put a smile on someone's face. I hope a little part of this video might have made you smile today too. Thank you for watching.